The next person up here is Tom Brown. Now, he took a hiatus. He told a story quite a few months ago, and in the meantime, he closed his Irish bar, and he had another son. And what else happened? So many things have happened. And you've been so...
Oh, lots of stuff happened.
Lots of stuff happened, which you're going to tell us about now. So, would you please welcome Tom Brown?
Well, lots of things did happen, but that will be a story for another night. I can tell you about stuff that happened a long, long time ago, because tonight's topic is things that I have learned one way or another. It's kind of a difficult topic for me, and it sort of obliges me to make a very short story, because I haven't really learned all that much. So I've decided anyway, I'll do my best, and I'll be verbose and try to embellish the story so I can fill up my 10 minutes time allotted to me. Anyway, the things that I've learned. The most important things I learned by, well, I'm 52 now, so I learned them by the time I was about 3. That was how to walk, talk, and wave goodbye. And despite the undeniable complexity of these things, I learned them pretty easily without much apparent effort and no formal instruction whatsoever. So I kind of assumed that I had assumed at the time I would continue in that vein with learning. And, I was probably hewn from the stone of genius. But I turned out to be wrong in both of those assumptions. And when I was finally, at the age of 5, ingested into the school system, it came as a bit of a shock, to be quite honest. And I was to sit in classrooms of one kind or another for many, many years, much to the dismay of both myself and the teachers. However, they did their best to try and instill a love of learning, and they failed. But you know, to be fair, they did help me to come to realize that I had no particular acumen for sports or music or art or science, geography, or history, or mathematics, or French, or German, or English. In fact, most especially English, because the thing was I was like a bad speller, and dyslexia was suspected. And at one time, when my word blindness was at an all-time low, it was suggested that I be sent for testing by the DNA, which was the National Association for Dyslexia. And I never was, because I suspect that the teachers, I never was because I suspect the teachers thought it'd just give me one more excuse for slowfulness and laziness. Anyway, pretty much sitting in school, learning dates and dogma wasn't my thing, and it didn't really suit me all that well. So I didn't drop out or anything like that. I kind of squished through the system, and finally I was like dumped out at the end like a piece of waste. And I left pretty much an educational also-ran, and not much the wiser. I'm sure I learned something, but by the time I got out, I'd already forgotten what it was. My younger brother, he entered the same school a year after me, and on his first day, the teacher said, "Hey, Peter Brown, you're not Tom Brown's brother, are you?" He had to confess that indeed he was. He was immediately moved up to the front row, put under close surveillance, treated like an IRA terror suspect for years, until he could prove his innocence. Peter was actually quite good at maths and history and stuff like that. I, on the other hand, I heard that it was travel was the thing that broadened the mind, so I decided to set out and see the world. Initially, my guide was Southeast Asia on a shoestring. It's a lonely planet, too. Some of you have probably heard of it. I loved that book, and I read it like avidly, and all the places in it just sounded like so exotic, and I can't wait to get here. But then the strangest thing happened whenever I actually did get there. After about 2 days, they stopped being exotic and just became ordinary, with the exception of Bangkok, which proved to be extraordinarily exotic for a young guy. Although there wasn't much about that in the guidebook, because it was mainly about temples and markets and cheap guest houses and things. Anyway, since those days, I've been fortunate. I've been able to travel quite a lot. I've been to many countries, and I've lived in a lot of countries. I've been various. Well, I'm a gaijin now, but I used to be a Boilo, and before that I was a Falang, and then I was an Auslander, and I was a Palm, like, of course, naturally a Paddy. But I guess after hearing that, and you'd all have to think that probably with all that travel behind me, now my mind must be as broad as a clear summer sky over the Russian steppes. But you'd be wrong. Because in every country I went to, the first thing I did is I found out where the local Irish pub, or as nearest to the was. I went there, I sat down with other travelers like myself, and we talked. And mostly we just slagged off tourists because they didn't really understand culture the same way that we did. Or we bitched about the local people in whatever country we happened to be in. And the rest of the time was spent up doing things to get money, thinking of things I could do to get money, or thinking of ways that I could save money. But if the only thing you make is money, then you don't really make much. And I think that explains why now I have reached this age and I know little or nothing of the language and cultures of the places that I've been to, sadly. And I find myself now knocking on the door of old age, and I've not really learned a lot. Tragic, really. But anyway, before that, I'd like to define what I mean by learned. Because sugar is very bad for your teeth. I know that. But I have a sweet tooth, and I like sweet stuff. If there's any cheesecake or anything around, I'm the first guy to eat it. I think now that actually it's the plaque that's kind of cementing my teeth together, and it makes me very worried about visiting the dentist. McDonald's is supposedly not good food. I know that too, but I still eat it, and I have hamburgers and fried chicken nuggets and deep fried apple pies and all that stuff. It makes you fat. It probably contributes to a heart attack. But, you know, I still eat it. I know that getting drunk at parties is not the ideal way to pick up women, but I've been doing that my whole life without much success, and I still continue to do it. So what I mean to say is that I know quite a lot of things, but I can't really say that I've learned them, because maybe knowing them is just like the first step to learning them. To have actually learned them, you really have to know them and then apply them for whatever reason you believe is the right thing to do. So I haven't learned much, but I have learned a few things, and I thought tonight would be a great chance to just pass them on to you, in case, you know, they would be of some use. I hope some of them are. So first, cooking turkeys. When you want to cook a turkey, you need to get it out of the freezer at least 5 or 6 days before you're going to defrost it into the fridge. And then don't brine it, because it makes the skin all soggy. Better just rubbing a bit of salt on it. Stuff the neck, not the body cavity, and don't wrap it with foil. Just tent it in with foil. Stick it in the oven, 180 degrees, about 4.5 hours for a 6 kilo bird, and we should be all right. Tulips are the easiest thing to grow in my garden, and they produce a wonderful spring floral display, especially if you plant them in vast roots. Of course, you need a garden to do that. But just use a flower pot. But the problem is that you have to plant them every year. So in some ways, daffodils, even though the bulbs are a little more expensive, they kind of multiply and come back year by year. So you might be better off going with daffodils. The didgeridoo, you should never play the didgeridoo in the toilet. It's very worrying for people. And also, don't play it if there's a sleeping baby around. I found that out quite recently. Shrooms are very unpredictable. Sports cars, just because you're driving a sports car doesn't automatically mean that you are a race car driver, can execute a perfect handbrake turn. And finally, dogs make much better pets than cats. I just said that to be controversial. But I believe it. Okay. So I'll conclude now. So far, as you've heard, my life has been one along the path of least resistance, and as a result, I haven't really learned much. I have been neither blessed or limited by any special talent. However, I have much more than less enjoyed my life, my family, my friends, my work. My achievements may not be spectacular, but they are mine. And my failures have never been so bad that they can't be forgotten or forgiven. So one thing that I do know, and that is that all the stuff I learned, even as a little baby, will someday be lost. Because all of us are on the same, well, we're not on the same, we're on our various roads to the same destination. And you can take many different roads, the high road, the low road, the easy road, the hard road. It doesn't matter. We're all going to end up at the same station, which is the end of the tracks. And I think what we all should learn is that once you've mastered walking and talking, you should try to learn to be kind, generous, helpful, and sympathetic to the lives of others before you lose it all and have to wave goodbye for the last time. Thank you. Goodbye. That last bit was the moral of the story.